I'm at the movies.
Real violent, real heavy.
Home again, home again.
You betray the law!
Class is Pain 101.
This one's for you, Mark.
I guess one person can make a difference.
By now, everyone who cares has probably seen Logan, or at least seen the reaction to it, so the question isn't, is the movie good? The question is, why is the movie so good? Why was it able to feel so complete, so sincere, and so satisfying, whereas many of its genre have become more and more cynical, stale, and underwhelming? Well, the answer is pretty obviously because it doesn't concern itself too much with other films and feels comfortable standing on its own. A lot of these movies are being drowned in build-up to the point where they're starting to blend together. I loved Civil War, for example, but I'd be hard-pressed to remember every single little thing about it. It can't be denied the most memorable, most rewatchable, and most universally acclaimed comic movies have all been the self-contained ones, more focused on telling a story than setting up 9 more. Smug critics have been circle-jerking for years now about how the superhero movie bubble is going to burst one of these days, and I've always found that opinion to be nothing more than pathetically misguided wishful thinking on the behalf of pompous film snobs who just hate comic book movies in general. I call these people bubble biters, those who like to fart in the bathtub and bite the bubble. These people can't wait for the metaphorical superhero bubble to burst so they can feel validated in dismissing it as an immature passing fad, because the only thing they love more than the taste of their own farts is telling people I told you so. Lord knows these pretentious twats are starved for vindication, considering how often the vast majority doesn't give a fuck what they think. Reality check for you sock-sniffing, bubble-biting fuckfaces. The superhero movie bubble will never burst because people will always love superheroes. Oh sure, we might see it eventually recede for a few years, only to return, just like we did decades ago, but you're fucking delusional if you think the superhero genre is ever going to outright crash and never return. If that were gonna happen, we wouldn't still be making movies about Hercules, King Arthur, and fucking Jesus. However, what will inevitably burst is the continuity bubble. More and more these films are buckling under the weight of their own baggage. It's hard enough to keep one franchise consistent for decades at a time, let alone a vast interconnected web of like 39 franchises. We've seen proof of the continuity bubble inevitably bursting time and time again for almost 100 years now. All these old Universal monster movies, for example, used to be part of a single universe, but eventually it got confusing or the actors got too old and they rebooted it. And then those movies went for a while and then they rebooted it again. And again. And again? Who's even keeping count at this point? For a nerd like me, continuity can be the gift that keeps on giving, but for the vast majority of you disgusting casuals, it eventually becomes a burden. That's why everyone is generally fine with James Bond having 50 actors, but for people like me, it only works by suspending our disbelief long enough to pretend James Bond is either a code name or a Time Lord. Point is, Logan works well as a film because it doesn't allow itself to be bogged down by its own baggage. It only vaguely depends on the backstory of the previous films and has nothing at all to do with the Marvel Studios universe at large. The irony of this being that for years, fans have lamented the fact that Fox owns the X-Men. They're part of the Marvel Comics universe, so why aren't they a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Doesn't it suck shit that we'll never get to see Hugh Jackman hanging out with Robert Downey on the big screen? Well, yeah, it does suck shit, but Logan states the case, and states it very well, that maybe that's for the best. Part of the appeal of the original 8-issue Old Man Logan comic was seeing what had become of the Marvel Universe at large. 50 years in the future, the world is divided up among supervillains and all the Avengers are dead. Somehow I doubt that fits into Marvel Studios' plans. And even aside from that, I think the story might have been a tad too ambitious and steeped in continuity to work well as a film anyways. Instead, the stripped-down story in Logan is exactly what it needs to be and keeps the focus squarely on the characters. If the X-Men movies had been a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe from the beginning, this movie might not have happened, and if it did, it would have undeniably been very different. Personally, I don't know if it could have been nearly as good. Not only would the Marvel Universe continuity have muddied up the already convoluted X-Men continuity, but the opposite would have also been true. The more baggage you add, the closer that continuity bubble comes to bursting, and I've seen way too many shitty reboots to want that anytime soon. The only reason the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been able to persist and remain more or less consistent for so long is precisely because it doesn't have to deal with the X-Men's added baggage. And this is where we all have to face a hard truth that every comic book fan has always known deep down inside, but doesn't like to admit out loud. The X-Men just plain don't work in the Marvel Universe. They never have, and they never will. We've been seeing this problem in Marvel Comics forever. The primary theme of the X-Men from inception has been a team of superheroes who are also an oppressed minority, fighting to protect a world that hates and fears them because of their unpredictable and often dangerous superpowers. A theme that completely breaks down when these characters share a universe with Norse gods, android dong, and actual fucking wizards. How is anyone supposed to buy that the Marvel populace is distrustful of mutants when they're totally fine with all the other superheroes running around? Metahumans with godlike power is a part of daily life in this universe, so why is everyone shitting their pants about a guy with I-beams? And that's why these stories always come off so forced. X-Men vs. Avengers. X-Men vs. Inhumans. There's always some goofy, contrived conflict with mutants, and it never makes any sense because they're exactly the same as every other superpowered national treasure. It's created this weird paradigm in comics where the X-Men always seem to be getting the shaft. They don't even feel like a team of superheroes anymore because they never get to do any actual superheroing. They're always busy teetering on the brink of extinction or being harassed by other superheroes, sometimes by themselves, and it's all because Marvel can't seem to figure out how to do anything else with them beyond the same tired mutants are persecuted theme, even though it never made sense in this universe to begin with. The core metaphor of the X-Men is inherently broken in the Marvel universe at large, and Marvel seems unwilling or unable to evolve them towards a new core metaphor. So they always end up in some weird narrative limbo, sometimes literally, where at any given time half the team is at war with the other half, or half of them are considered supervillains, or half of them are their younger selves from the past, and now there's like 10 Wolverines, but none of them are actually Wolverine. Enough already. The only permanent solution to this problem would be to somehow remove the X-Men from the main Marvel universe and give them their own universe. This was actually briefly rumored to be in Marvel's plans, but thankfully it turned out to be bogus. And I say thankfully because that would only solve the problem by creating a million new ones, chief among them being that fans don't really want it. Because for all its inherent narrative brokenness, the fact is we like the X-Men being a part of the Marvel Universe. It's what we grew up with, and we would never want it taken away. It's bad enough they already took away Spider-Man's fucking marriage. The X-Men problem is a contrivance we've all learned to live with, because the alternative would be even worse. But therein lies the unexpected upside to all this restrictive film studio copyright nonsense. We, the fans, get to have our cake and eat it too. We can have our insane, continuity-driven clusterfuck comics where the X-Men interact with the Avengers, and we can have our slightly more coherent movie franchises where they aren't sticking their noses into each other's continuity. The result of which is a masterpiece like Logan. A happy accident that couldn't have existed in any other circumstance. Truly, this is the brightest timeline. Except for all the shitty movies.